We'd like to welcome each and every individual to Voices of Integrity podcast, the movie book library. And if you're coming in and this is your first time, welcome. It kind of does contextually go ahead and, does contextually build on one another. And so typically it can take a couple podcasts to kind of get up to speed on the wild and wacky people that tends to be drawn to this type of a podcast. And so we're going to go ahead. We'd like to welcome Mark as a guest here, Don's guest, and so that's going to be fun. First, we'll do the Narnia. That's the movie that we're going through, and so we're going to do that one, and then we'll introduce Mark and find out, what it was that Don said that drew Mark in. So love having you here, Mark. Thanks for inviting a guest on. So Narnia on the Voyage of the Dawn Trader movie. Um, did any of you watch that?
I watched it years ago. I had to watch the trailer again today to see if I could remember what it was all about. So um, it was making choices. It was deciding whether we wanted something that would make us feel good, or was it doing the right thing?
Ooh, nice, nice. So one of the things in the podcast that we talk about is movies and books. Years ago, I thought about my kids, my seven kids. I'm like, they're not thinking like dad is. Sometimes I wonder if they're thinking like Patrick. He says that when his boys were growing up, he has five boys and one girl. And when his boys were growing up, and he's like, why did you do that? And they're like, well, Dad, I was thinking. He says, stop, just stop, just stop, just stop. Don't go ahead and offend you and everyone around you. You weren't thinking, like you weren't thinking. And so I realized that my kids were not thinking in a way that I thought that would help them to succeed in life. And I wondered, then I was introspective and I said, so how do I think? Why do I think the way I think? And I realized that a lot of it came from books that I had read and movies that had impacted me. So there's a concept called internalization. And so internalization is where something changes our life forever. And and we know it's changed our life forever because we reference it. So this movie changed my life forever. And I don't remember very many of the details of it, but I remember one scene and it changed my life forever. And I don't know, it's probably 15 years ago that I watched this, maybe longer. Any questions or thoughts from anyone?
What was that one thing?
Oh, I always like when people are interested in what I'm thinking. Um,
Yeah.
um, and so it was at the end of the movie where there was this soldier, this warrior, and I don't know what he was. His chipmunk. He wasn't a chipmunk, but he was this fierce warrior. But he was little in stature, and he had won the war. And now he could benefit from peace. He could benefit from the peace. He could benefit from the risk that he took and the what he did. And there was this wave, just like you see here. And he had a choice, and he could go into the afterlife or he could stay on this earth. And he's at the prime of his life. And he chose to go into the afterlife rather than stay where he was at. And I thought, how strange is that? Like, how intriguing is that? Like, so Mark, why is that strange or intriguing?
You know, I'm, and I was just trying to watch a bit of the trailer to get a better understanding of the movie, but I couldn't agree with you more that how you could watch things, how you could get absorbed in a movie and feel like you're there, and how it could transform your life to new possibilities. is amazing. And I just watching a small clip of the trailer, like the other woman, um, I watched it a long time ago, and I just wanted to bring it back. I it's so interesting what you're saying, how we look at life. I'm not sure how. Yeah. Um,
So it's cool that Mark's on because this is the first time I've ever met Mark,
yeah.
and he and I are in flow.
Thank you. Thank
You
you
know,
so much.
well, some might once you get to know me, you might be like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to be in flow with Mark Boersma." Like, it's just interesting, and so what's interesting is not only how we look at life, but how we look at death. And so, like when my parents died, my dad died, I think it was like 8 years ago. My mom, 7 years ago. And so they died within a year of each other. And I realized at that point, what I love most about death is it seems to awaken people. Unfortunately, it's just for a short period of time. People are nice to one another. People talk about significant things.
Do do you have the experience? I'm reflecting back on when my mother died and when my father died. Um, and in both cases, having the most insightful and deep conversations just before they died. My mother's death was pretty, we knew she was going to die at one point, but she was healthy. And fortunately, when she died, it was a sudden and fast death. And and so I didn't know exactly when she was going to die, but I remember the day she died. But um, I just the wisdom that she imparted. I was stressing over a situation at work where I had so much work to do, and I was just like, and she invited me for dinner, and she actually died um, right after dinner. Um, um, but I said, "Oh, Mom, I can't. Can I take a rain check? I've got all this work I have to do." But how she put everything in perspective, you know, just do one task at a time. Take it completely get absorbed in that one task. Don't think about what else comes after this. And um, just so much wisdom. I and the same for my father and so many other people I know as they're nearing death.
Right? I mean, it's so intriguing. There was another woman that I talked to. So my grandmother, who is 99 years old, she died 9 years ago. My dad 8 years ago. My mom 7 years ago, and my oldest son, who is 35 years ago. And Vira from Russia, and I only talked to her once, and I have no idea. She came through LinkedIn, but somehow I'm talking to her. And she's like, Mark, do you know why you healed so quick from your son's death? And I said, I don't know, maybe. And she's like, I said, why do you think I've healed? She says, because you look at death in a very different way than most people. And I kind of laughed. I said, I can see that. But what do you mean? She's like, you don't look at your son or your mom or dad or your grandmother, you don't look at them as being dead.
Yeah.
And so, anyone else have any other thoughts?
Well, I couldn't agree more, Mark, Mark, and Mark. Uh, the I I'm of the same ilk in thinking that my father, at the age of 94, passed away last year. As a matter of fact, well, no, we've moved on. So 2023 is when he passed away, um, and the situation was that my wife and I had just been diagnosed with COVID, and he went into one of his checkup, what we termed, every 6 months he had to go in for a tune-up, and but this time we couldn't go into the hospital to visit with him because of the COVID thing, and uh, we got a call from him, somewhat panicking that he was he needed to get out of there really fast. They were treating him really bad. They were not letting him sleep in his bed, and that he was having to sit on the floor. And so, of course, we called the hospitalist and immediately, and they assured us that he was definitely in his bed and those kind of things. Fortunately, an hour before he passed, they gave us special permission to come to the hospital and see him. And we were able to call back to Scotland and get some of the family on the phone and everything. But when we got there, he was already in. Uh, I mean, he had whatever 60 milligrams, I guess, of air, and he still was at a 70% oxygen. So that was and eventually why he passed. But um, it seemed like there was in the call that he made and what he was talking about is he was seeing himself from a different position and looking at himself on the floor. He was transitioning. So it really, it to me, emphasized what I have believed most all of my life, and that is that we are not to fear death. Death is truly a transition to back to we came from somewhere, we're here for a purpose, and we're going to somewhere on the other side. This is definitely a little stopping ground.
Interesting. Rosanna, your thoughts?
Um, I think having an understanding of what we learn when someone dies and how to apply it to our lives and how to go ahead and grow from it. I think reaching out to those that have hurt and not just say you're sorry, but figure out what that person meant to them in their lives.
Right. It's interesting because, my parents were both in their mid 70s, so they lived a full life, full, complete life. I wonder, did my son who died at 30, did he have a more complete life than my parents did at 65? Or 75. I don't know. I don't know.
That's an interesting point. You know what, I had not thought of that particular perspective, Mark, but uh, something about that I think what hit me when you said that was there's a good possibility that that's true, mainly because of the advancement in technology and things that we have available to us that weren't available 7 years ago.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting. Um, Melissa, thoughts you have?
Um, no, I don't think I will share at this time. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. That would be such a cool uh, movie to watch with your kids. What an adventure.
Narnia. Oh, we've talked about it. We've actually saw it at the library the other day. And I was like, "Oh, we should totally watch that." And they're like, "It's too scary." And yeah,
Oh,
no.
Grandpa, they would have such an adventure with Grandpa. Oh my goodness, we would have so much fun. That would be so cool. Ben, your thoughts?
Um, to be honest, I just jumped on. and I'm not exactly sure what we're talking about.
The movie Narnia.
It brings back memories.
Yeah, you were really small. You were really young. Like when we watched that as a family. Like,
Yeah, I remember watching it quite a bit. I
yeah,
remember it was like first action movie we were allowed to watch.
right? Yeah,
Uh,
absolutely. Elaine, thoughts you have,
I remember watching it back in school once. Not sure why we watched it, what the concept was behind it, but I remember little bits of when Rosanna shared how they had to make a determination on to do what was best versus what was the right thing to do. So I thought that was cool. That brought that back, that I remembered that piece. Um, know of a little bit that there's animals involved. Not sure what kind of animals again. Um, but I like the thought of the whole death conversation that you've been having here. Gave me a different perspective of looking at it. Yeah, just relating. I think it's great to relate to people who have lost a loved one to try and understand. I mean, obviously we can't fully understand it unless you experience it, but have compassion and have be available for them to talk and to go through that, to work through it. Um just yeah, have empathy. Just that's my thoughts.
it's interesting because both my mom and dad were on hospice together, and my mom, very strong woman, very, my dad was a pastor, so Christian, very conservative Baptist. And, so it was interesting with my mom. I said, Mom, how are you doing? And she looked at me, and I could tell that there was something. And, and I said, It's okay, Mom. You can tell me whatever you want. She says, I have, she didn't say fear, but she said something about death. And she wouldn't tell anybody else because she told me before that nobody cared for her like I did. So there was this. And then right after Jonathan's death, I was talking to a woman, and her grandmother was on like death's, door. Like it was like she was, she was going to die very soon. And the granddaughter said, "So, Grandma, are you afraid?" And she's like, "Well, I've never experienced this experience before." So, what a great, like, I've never experienced this experience before. So, yeah, I'm a little bit nervous. I'm a little bit like unaware. And so, um, Katie, your thoughts?
I never watched this, so I'm not too sure what it's all about, but yeah, it's been interesting hearing about thoughts on death and
Especially now, right?
yeah.
For you, like you have a question being Amish. I'm pretty sure you have a question. Does anybody know what question Katie has?
What's real? What's on the other side?
Okay, maybe. Probably a little closer to heart. Don wouldn't know because he's contextually he's not aware of Katie's situation. And so, does anybody know what Katie's question is? Katie, do you know what your question is?
No,
Isn't it weird, Katie, on how
it
connected
is.
you and I are? Like,
Yes.
like it's just weird. So Katie's question, maybe not on a conscious basis, but on a subconscious, some people say, Mark, you can read people's subconscious thoughts, feelings. So there's subconscious, and then there's deep, deep subconscious, like it's way, way buried down. And so, you can always tell if something's at what level of subconscious they're at, because I'm going to probably say it. And she's like, yeah, she'll just immediately, yeah, that's right. So that's on a semi subconscious basis. If somebody says that's not what I was thinking, then it's probably deep subconscious. Anyways, so what Katie's wondering is, like, are there animals in heaven?
I wasn't really thinking that.
Okay, so it's a little deeper.
Yeah.
Because your puppy, your dog, like the connection there with that one, it's crazy, isn't it?
Mhm.
Yes, no?
Yes, yes, it is.
Yeah. So it's like you want to spend all of eternity with that feeling, that experience, that like, how does an animal give you that kind of an experience? I don't even know what the Amish believe about heaven per se, or about animals in heaven or anything like that. I don't know. I don't know. So Mark, I'm really intrigued. It's great to have first time guests. Um, what was it that Don said to you that caused you to think that you would join us today? Like, what triggered you to join us today, Mark?
Don shared some information about you and showed me some of um, the things you did, and I immediately resonated. I love your approach in business and how you look at life and how you bring, um, you know, I I'd like to think I achieved a certain level of success in business, but I also grew up with challenges with uh, learning disabilities and sometimes if we let those challenges we look at everything in life as an opportunity. The very challenges actually gave me a perspective and insights to approach life. Sometimes when some things are more challenging than others, or particularly more challenging for me than I saw it was for other people, it also gave me the advantage of compensating and finding other ways of doing it. And I feel like in your work, you have such a fascinating approach of how to simplify it, how to, you know, when people teach, sometimes they could teach the same thing, but they could teach it in a different way. And it resonates so much stronger with other people. I love the way you teach, how you put things in perspective. It makes it much easier to understand. And the content of what you have already is great, but yet you presented it in a different way that makes it so much well, I resonated with it stronger, and I'm really honored to meet you because I, I think it's a brilliance how you do it.
Oh, thank you so much. Very kind. Don, most people don't invite people to podcast with me, and I understand why. Um, how did you get over that concern, awareness, fear, whatever you want to call it?
Um, I think it comes down to uh, getting out of my own way, having more confidence in my own decision making process, and feeling that I have a true connection with the people that I know, and that they have trust in my decision making process, and therefore, if I ask them and give them, some logical reason they can resonate with, they're more than happy to find out what Don is excited about.
So I think what it is for Don is, I think he trusts the integrity of the system, like Tom Coons says. Like it's a half an hour podcast, for crying out loud. It's like, come and participate. If you want to participate again, fine. And if you don't, it's okay. It's totally okay. So what Don does is, like he's just going to throw it out. If you're one of those people with the universe, it's fine, or God, or, whatever your belief system is, do we really trust our belief system? We think we do. Like Baptists are, taught very, very young, trust God, this and this and this, have faith and all that. But do we really, do that? And so I would say just invite somebody. Like if they don't come, it's okay. It's not an affront against you. Just invite people. Now, Don, he's got some additional capability that a lot of people don't seem to have, and that is he actually gets excited. Right? And when he gets excited, then he wants to share that excitement, with other people. So great to have you on today's podcast. We're going to be moving into Voices of Integrity podcast for passions, and that's a wild one. That's a wild one. That's a wild one. If you have any questions on anything that we covered today, connect with the individual who invited you to participate in today's session, or you can call toll free 888-230-2300, outside the US 630-393-9909. And always remember, we can accomplish so much more together than we ever could on our own. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.